All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast. This is the show all about farmers markets, how to increase your market business success, and in the current climate, how to maximize safety while providing people with fresh food. Whether you're a farmers market manager or a farmer or food producer selling at farmers markets, this is the podcast for you. On today's episode of Tent Talk, we're talking about how to cover operation costs when your farmers markets have been modified to operate under current guidelines. Hey everyone, I'm Bridget Myers, one of your hosts here on Tent Talk, and I've spent many years as an on-site and behind-the-scenes farmers market manager, and I'm the education coordinator at Farmers Market Pros.
And I'm Kat Fields-White, another of your hosts, Director of San Diego Markets, still an active farmers market manager, founder of Farmers Market Pros, and host of the Farmers Market Pros community.
And I'm co-host Justine. That's it.
You're like Beyonce, like one name. That's it. That's all you need. Justine is helping us so much. So welcome back to Tent Talk, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Of course, we're still talking about the current public health emergency, since like everyone else, farmers, food makers, and farmers market managers are still operating under conditions that change daily. Hourly, perhaps. We may make jokes on our podcast, but we know exactly how exhausting it is to try to keep up and how very serious the situation is and how we all need to remember to put health and safety first.
And the stories we've been hearing from all of you make us so proud to be part of this amazing farmers market industry. We're realizing more and more every day that market people are a resilient bunch.
I think it's because farmers are used to dealing with the unexpected, though it's usually more droughts, floods, plagues of gophers, pests instead of pandemics. But they're pretty used to looking disaster in the face and then brushing it off and carrying on.
And food makers deal with crazy things that happen, like refrigeration failures, co-packers going AWOL, changes in supply chains, and all that wild stuff.
We're all very flexible and can adjust in the face of adversity. So it feels like this is like, it kind of feels natural to us, although this is very unprecedented times. I feel like we're all doing a great job. So everyone in the industry is really being very resilient and hanging in there.
Yeah, you know, farmers market managers deal with whatever the crisis of the day is, and we just keep swimming. We figured out how to deal with city guidelines to separate booths by 15 feet, eliminate whole categories of vendors, increase our staff, and decrease our customers. And what's tougher is figuring out how to cover operating costs under those scenarios. So
for sure,
we've got farmers in the market that generally have the lowest fees, subsidized by non-food and maybe a little bit of craft. Now all we've got is farmers. So very low fees, pulling down shoppers, still trying to figure out how to cover increased staffing because the city requires us to have so much staff to meet our entry and exit and stuff. So it's been interesting. So we're going to talk to Christine Farren about this as well. She's the executive director of CUESA, the Center for Urban Education about Sustainable Agriculture. They operate 5 farmers markets in 3 locations in the San Francisco Bay Area, including 3 markets a week at the amazing Ferry Plaza, right on the water there in San Francisco. Christine, welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's a testament to the resiliency that you were talking about, and also the sort of interdependency that I think we know exists in sustainable food systems. You know, you can't take one facet of the food system out without it connecting to everything else, and that kind of interdependency has also, which is a strength in my opinion, has also really been evident in the way farmers market operators are collaborating and banding together at this time, because we are not going to make it out of this alone.
So, Christine, how long have you been the executive director at CUESA?
Well, I have been with CUESA for 17 years, but I have been the executive director just for 2 months now. So I agreed to be the interim when our former ED left, and felt real confident in that temporary position, and then realized our finances were actually not looking as great as I'd hoped. And then 2 weeks later, COVID-19 comes in. So it's been a baptism by fire, as they say.
You're calling President Obama, right, and saying, so how is it when you take over a country and you suddenly find out that your all out of control. The last guy.
Well, yeah, it's been the feeling of like, oh my God, are we on a sinking ship? To like, no, we're not on a sinking ship. But and I can talk about the number of ways that we made sure our ship wasn't about to go under. But it and now it's how to tack the right course. And
exactly.
there's kind of a lot of course correcting. So CUESA as an organization has been around for 27 years. And we're best known for running farmers markets, but we have kind of a little bit of a zoomed back holistic approach that farmers markets are one of the most visible education tools where we can demonstrate an alternative to a conventional food system. So the farmers market is in and of itself the example of the values of sustainability and knowing where your food comes from and having increased food access by having CalFresh available at farmers markets and the Market Match program and all of these other initiatives, and the sort of dual importance of teaching people and drawing on the community wisdom that already exists. So it's not just top-down education, but it's drawing education from the community that really reinforces all the values. So it's this kind of holistic approach to managing markets. And as Kat said, we do operate farmers markets. Right now, we're operating 3 a week at the Ferry Building, and we are desperately working to reopen the farmers market that's in the Mission Community District of San Francisco. That farmers market's on a street, and as every market manager knows, sometimes it comes down to brass tacks: garbage, water, bathrooms, and so some things that we had access to prior to the shutdown, we don't have access to now. So one of our neighborhood bars is going to open up, and we're going to pay the door person to give us access to water and bathrooms and garbage. So yay to the makeout room on 22nd Street in San Francisco for leave it to a bar to help a farmer's market open, right? So
we're all in this together.
We are, truly. So right now, the Mission Community Market will reopen in early May, we hope. And Jacqueline and Square Farmers Market in Oakland, we actually were in the process of transferring that to a different farmers market operator pre-COVID-19, but then our landlords at Jacqueline and Square pulled our permit to operate, even though we were deemed an essential function. They were concerned. And so they, in early March, said, you're not allowed to operate the market. And so it was right at a time when we were getting ready to pass it off to a new operator. And so now it's just on hiatus and it's kind of in limbo. But the new operator is reaching out to the farms and it will start up again. So, there's a lot of little wrinkles, but essentially, yes, 4 farmers markets a week right now.
Gotcha.
Wow. Were the markets at the Ferry Plaza, were they shut down at any point, or they just continued through and you were able to keep those markets operational during the time? Or did you have to shut down at the beginning and then reopen?
We were lucky in that we did not ever have to shut down. As soon as we heard rumblings, we reached out to, every elected official, Department of Public Health, because initially the orders for what was essential did not specifically name farmers markets. And so we asked for that to happen. And we said, until you specifically call us out, we are assuming that we are operating like a grocery store because farmers markets serve an essential community security food function. And really, that has been at the core, is both reminding elected officials and reminding our customers that we are not a luxury.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So what kind of changes have you had to make at those markets just to kind of make that point even more clear, or, assuming you had to change vendor participation at those markets to strictly farmers, or what kind of changes were made at those 3 Ferry markets?
We, like everyone else, had a kind of a wave of changes. So first it was no cooking demonstrations, no product sampling, no music. And then that was kind of the first pass and then it became spacing out the farmers. And then it became roping off to where people are pointing to produce and the customers are requesting what they want. And then the market vendor is handing them produce, and then kind of the pre-bagged scenario kicked in, and then separating sales from where you acquire produce. And luckily our farms were very amenable to it. I think we sort of from the outset said, we're communicating, this has to be or you can't come. So, adapt or lose your sales. But most of the time it was fine, and a lot of it just was help. Like, okay, they needed rope, they needed extra bags, they needed, how do we make this transition smooth as possible for the first day at the market, and then they kind of get their new groove. Now it's face masks. So most everyone has been wearing them, but not all. Most everyone's wearing gloves, but not all, but it wasn't everyone. And so now that's like an enforcement point that we have to have that for every worker, for every, CUESA staff person. That's been the norm for the last 6 weeks that we've had masks and gloves, but now it's for sellers.
Are customers required to wear masks as well at your markets? Or? Yes, customers do. Okay.
Well, it's now a city ordinance for San Francisco, so that took the onus off of us, and we just have to post it and point it, and it's every grocery store, and so it's now a normalized behavior.
It's been so tough that because the directions are so different. The city has one set of guidelines, and the county has another, and sometimes they don't sync, and then the messaging gets bad because a market 10 minutes away, which is technically not in the city, it's a different city, is doing something completely different. So the customers, I think, are really confused by that. Do you still have prepared food vendors there, Christine?
We have a very small handful, and they sell food packaged to go, and they aren't allowed to distribute utensils with it. So the idea is really that if you want to get this prepared food, you're taking it home. You're not lingering. So from a sales perspective, we, as is the case with, I think, a lot of other market operators, that's your profit center. So farmers are subsidized the most. Farms in our market pay a flat stall fee per square footage. And then value-added products like jams that aren't, farmstead or non-farmstead cheese, et cetera, are the second tier. And then the third tier are restaurants that pay the highest stall fee and also pay 8% of their sales. And that losing that was the kind of punch in the gut of like, how is this possible? How are we going to pay for farmers market operations when labor is up, revenue is down, and we still need to be there, and our farms really need us to be there.
I think that's where everybody is right now. We've gotten through that. I mean, the first 4 to 6 weeks was just figuring out how to convince all of the municipalities and all of the agencies to give us guidelines that we could be there at all. And then figuring out what their requirements were to get to operate. And now that we've kind of got that system down, we know that the booths have to be way far apart. And we know we can only have farms and a few essential groceries. And I'm seeing this in our Farmers Market Pros community from all over the country. People who have been open for a while and are getting the hang of that are now all of a sudden going, but how do we pay for this? I mean, how do we cover operating costs, much less do anything like you probably yield money from the farmers market to other education programs. And we are typically aligned with a community group where part of our function is to be a community fundraiser so that they can do other things in the community that don't have any way to operate, cover costs. So I think a lot of us now are going, okay, so we can operate and we've got the farmers covered and the shoppers can get nutrient-dense food. How do we keep doing this since we're not covering costs? But you guys have always been good. You've always maintained a strong donor base, right? Even before.
Yes.
But have you typically gone out to shoppers for donations? I know you've got a great pop-up right now on your website that comes right up and kind of gives a short explanation and then links to a longer one about if the shoppers want the market to be here, you need help.
Yes.
That's something that you did before. Did you have a Friends of the Market kind of donation program or anything?
Well, because CUESA is a 501c3 nonprofit, we didn't need to have a Friends of ARM, and we had an active fundraising presence. And that's, and I came from the development side of CUESA before I became the executive director. So when you asked about talking about fundraising, that's my wheelhouse. I'm super excited to talk about it because I love talking about connecting to our donors and really having that perspective that they are an extension of the staff. So they're the mindset of this is their farmers market. And I think that's what when we were talking about a Save the Farmers Market Fund, we said, save your farmers market fund. We already know people have a strong sense of ownership, and now we want to turn that ownership into that kind of reciprocity. And we already had a base to build on, but it became clear that we needed to do better promotion within the farmers market. So we printed out and have laminated signs where we also instituted a text to give, because I think there's a lot of people that are happy to do a $5, $10 contribution in text to give. And so there's a great company, Go Lively. If you're a nonprofit, it takes about 2 weeks to get it set up. We initially started with a QR code that people could scan that would then take them to the donation page on our website, but that's a lot of steps. And I know, even as someone who's motivated in the moment to give, if it's any more than a couple clicks, or if I have to go find my wallet and pull out my credit card number, I'll abandon that desire to give. And so really making it a clear, short, compelling message and making it easy is, I think, a key for people, for market operators to really express what that need is. CUESA has a few challenges in that, because we are attached, something that is a benefit is also has a challenge to it. And so we are at this beautiful home in the Ferry Building along the waterfront, and we had the benefit of a lot of chefs that shop the market for their restaurants. That's gone away. We've had a lot of downtown workers who came for our weekday markets because we were right next to the financial district. That's gone away. And we had a lot of tourism traffic going along the Embarcadero, and that's gone away. So 3 things that were sustaining us are actually now a unique vulnerability. And so we are shifting a lot of our communications to people who live and work nearby, who have longstanding relationships with the farmers market, and really saying, this is your market, this is your community treasure, and it could go away if we aren't there to support it. It's not a given, even though we've been here for 27 years. So some of that messaging was just being willing to be vulnerable and say, we can't do this without you.
All 3 of those things sound really similar to the Little Italy market, close to a lot of restaurants downtown, and just the really beautiful tourist location. So that really resonates with our Saturday and Wednesday market too.
Now, what platform are you using for donations on your site? It's like
Network for Good is the organization that we use to facilitate our gifts.
And did you work with them before this happened?
Absolutely. They are our online donation portal, and they have the ability to have specific campaigns. So we kind of turned off our regular annual monthly giving, and we set up a new campaign with a dedicated goal of $50,000, and we're about $36,000 towards the $50,000 goal. And then we also simultaneously to that did choose to engage in a separate campaign with GoFundMe. There used to be a nonprofit part, and then GoFundMe was for anything that wasn't tax deductible, and they merged. And now Charity GoFundMe is the wing of that company where people can give, and it's to a tax deductible 501c3 nonprofit. And they were having a matching gift. So we said, okay, we'll go ahead and do a campaign just through Charity GoFundMe to try to capture that $1,000 matching gift. And because they moved their Giving Tuesday, which is traditionally the Tuesday after Thanksgiving, to Give Now. And so it's May 5th is the campaign date that they're trying to rally people around giving at this moment. So we have had a lot of internal questions about, confusing donors. How many campaigns should we have? How many things are we asking for? And for now, it's been this umbrella support ask, support CUESA, support running the farmers market. But we are considering putting a secondary or even tertiary ask out there for a specific new program where we would be giving subsidized veggie boxes to families in need. One of the adaptations CUESA has made in the last 3 weeks is to aggregate boxes from farms that don't have enough variety to produce their own single farm CSA style box. So CUESA has come in as the intermediary and said, okay, we're going to get avocados from this grower and strawberries from this grower and greens from that grower, and we're going to put together kind of a seasonal CUESA box and put it online for sale and get volunteers to come and help do the packing. And we started off with 60 boxes the first week, 100 boxes the second, 175 this Saturday. And what we're trying to figure out is, can we grow it sustainably? I mean, there's just so many knowns and unknowns right now. And is the demand for this going to be here even after we can all come back to the market? Is this even the business model that CUESA wants to be doing? Does this make sense? And I'm someone, like a lot of people, who likes a lot of certainty. And so this has been very stressful to plan something and just I have no effing idea how I'm going to do this. So, so that's where we are. And we're trying these things. And we're trying to price them in a way that pays for our labor. Yeah. And then we're hoping that this is part of how customers will see that we're meeting them where they are. We're meeting them in their concerns for safety and security, and we're meeting them in their desire to help farmers. And, if we can't keep doing the boxes after a few months, people will understand we did this temporarily to help these farms, to help you. Now come on back to the market. The drive-through farmers market is closing, and, but we'll see. I can't really see the forest from the trees at the moment.
Yeah, I have a lot of those questions myself. I mean, that's what we get emails every single day, or calls or texts from food makers and farmers that we don't have room for right now because of our modified layout, and crafters that were absolutely off the table from day one when this started, saying, how long is this going to last? And I think that's the question that's on everybody's mind all over this world.
I am in the gather all the information, write out the pros and cons, be willing to walk away if it's clear something isn't working. Be willing, this is the hard part for me, be willing to sit in the unknown for longer.
Yeah.
When I'm in a space of unknown, I always go back to my values. And I think that's why I work in a nonprofit, and that's why I'm in this line of work. And so my values are telling me that these farms really need this support. It's acute, it's temporary, and these shoppers are very afraid. We had people driving up who weren't even willing to roll down their window. They just were holding a sign up to the glass window saying what their name was and what box they ordered, and then they'd point to their trunk for us to pop the trunk. And their children were in masks and they were in masks. This was just one family last week where I thought, oh my God, you guys are gripped with fear. I don't know what your personal story is. Maybe you have a reason to be, but so how can I meet all the constituents that we have and meet them right now in this moment, and then be willing to dial back if it's not working. And I think, and have that transparency with our customers to say, like, we tried this. We knew it was super convenient for you. We know you loved it, but we were losing money at it. And we know it's really not what we're here to do. Farmers markets are here to bring people together, and this was temporary. So I'm willing to have that conversation with people. Right now, what I'm trying to do is just make it profitable. It's only profitable because we have volunteers willing to help do the packing, and because we have farmers willing to give us wholesale prices, and because we have like a per box markup. And I don't even know that it's totally paying for the staff time. I mean, it's, this is a brand new business for CUESA to be in, and it's not one that we wanted to be in. So right now I'm leaning on my board of directors to ask them, who does this for a living? Who does like appropriate pricing for boxes? And, someone help me out, because this is brand new waters for us. But it feels like the right thing to do, and we're getting a lot of gratitude from our community. So that leads me to say that even if we have to suspend it or change it or something like that, people will be grateful that we were there for them. And farmers are certainly grateful. We have farms telling us, I've lost all my restaurant sales. Without this $600 purchase from CUESA every Saturday to fill the boxes with my avocados, I would be in a really bad place. So, that feels good.
Yeah. I was interested that CDFA, that Steve put out guidelines that said that markets could do this. Because in the past, it wasn't actually legal for us to take money for produce.
Oh, yeah. No, it was a big...
At that point. Yeah, so it's been a whole, I was like, wait, Steve signed this at CDFA? Obviously, a different world. So hang in there, Christine. Thank you for being with us this week.
I really appreciated talking to you guys. I will say one last thing is that we did apply for the Paycheck Protection Program. We were one of the few to get it. So that's a little cushion for right now. And that we are asking our landlords for rent abatement. So like of the many things we're doing, we're asking for a lot of deferrals on contracts and payments. We are trialing this veggie box. We're asking our donors to give. We're asking for rent abatement, like any which way to make sure that we can survive.
That's good. Have you always used a lot of volunteers?
Yes.
So we never have. We're our wage hour people down here make it sound like that's not a very safe thing to do. But you have never run up against anything with that. I mean, we're a 501(c)(3). Mm-hmm. The market itself is the revenue building arm of the 501(c)(3) that actually puts money in, and so there's some legal kind of fuzziness there, but y'all have always been successful using volunteers.
Yes. I mean, we have a full program where people attend an orientation and sign, photo releases and DNAs and all sorts of documents so that, it was one that evolved over time. So I would say it's not like you have to have all of that before you can accept volunteers. I think the key is that there's a dedicated communication point for those volunteers, that they have tasks that are thought out ahead of time, that they have an orientation. Like, so for volunteers to come and do the packing, or to help be your crowd monitors, or to staff a hand washing station, a lot of it is just carving out that minute to think through and send them an email that says, this is your shift time, this is who you report to, this is what we want you to come wearing. If you don't have gloves and a mask, we can provide them, or we can't provide them, or whatever, so that you're building that sense of professionalism and also security. And people want to feel useful right now. I will say that. I have heard from our volunteers that they feel more of a sense of purpose after a shift with us than they felt all week, on meetings from home. So you can really seize into that. And some of your volunteers become some really key donors and connectors also. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Such a pleasure to have Christine with us this morning. She's really busy, we know, and it was great to hear what they're doing. They're very organized there, and they've got a really good program. And I've seen a couple of other markets, a number of other markets, doing the same kind of thing, resorting to some fundraising at this point, now that they've got the kind of, at least crisis of the moment, under control, and have an idea how to operate these modified markets. Now they're looking at the finances and determining how to make that happen. So Texas farmers markets have a good fundraising campaign going, and they've got a good explanation on their website. They're very clear that the rents now for spaces compared to what they used to be are very different, and that they can only cover 80% of their operating costs, and that customers are really going to have to donate, or somebody's going to have to donate to keep them going. So they've got a real good explanation on that, and they're just using a simple square shop. So that comes with your little square thing that you tuck in your phone or your iPad, and you sell bags and shirts at the market. You can very easily set up a shopping site within Square's platform. And they've just done that. And what you're buying there is a donation at various levels. So that's been really, really simple to set up, I think, for them. Ballard is using something similar to that. Ballard market was closed for either 5 or 6 weeks. I think they were supposed to come back on the 5th week, and then all of a sudden at the very last minute, they knocked them out again and said, no, some other agency said, no, you can't operate. And so they were out for an extended period of time in Seattle. So when they came back, they've got a huge fundraising campaign going, and it's called the Farmer Relief Program. And so they mention in there that it's partly to help with farmers market operations, but they're also setting up a program to give emergency funds to farmers that weren't able to sell for 5 or 6 weeks. A lot of those folks just got knocked out. And that's actually something we've always talked about at Farmers Market Pros, is looking at possibly doing a foundation that's related to our organization, that's sort of an emergency fund for people that operate in farmers markets, because so many of those businesses are so small and just aren't ready if something truly tragic hits, or something as crazy as this right now. I think the market in Tucson also has a fundraising campaign set up. Again, very clear, really simple platform where you just press the button for a $5 donation or a $10 donation or a $100 donation. And that's, I think, what we're all going to have to look at. I just can't think of how else we cover costs in this current environment. And hopefully the markets will get to grow a little bit as we go forward. But right now, I know all over the country, people are having a hard time figuring out how to operate a tiny market that has been changed so much. That's where we are.
The conversation continues. So just, let us know what's happening in your world. Are you just opening your market for the season? Are you delaying opening? Will you be doing online ordering or drive-up markets? That was interesting to hear what Christine's doing with her markets, doing the boxes and such. So I'd be curious to know other market managers that are doing that. To me, that sounds like so much work, and it's great that she has a volunteer force. So that could really come in handy with something like that. If you're working with just a paid staff, is that feasible? How would that work? So we're curious to know what's going on in your world with your markets. And then, like we asked Christine, even if you don't know when, what do you think the future holds? We're all kind of thinking about that for sure. So yeah, to hear what's happening in various parts of the country or share what's happening in your area, we have terrific conversations and people sharing resources over in our private Facebook group, the Farmers Market Pros community. So please feel free to come over and answer the 3 qualifying questions and join that group. And you can also message us on Instagram at Farmers Market Pros. Tag us in your photos of your drive-through markets or your pickup boxes or your smaller condensed markets that are being metered at the entrance. If you tag us at Farmers Market Pros, we can share that with our followers too, so they can see what other markets are doing. And just me personally, I'm always curious what other markets are doing. So I've been scrolling and searching, but yeah, if you tag us, it'd be great, or message us or share things with us. And then you can email us at connect@farmersmarketpros.com. All right, everyone. Well, thanks so much for listening to Tent Talk. Please leave us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you access your podcasts, and tell us how you're enjoying Tent Talk. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss the next episode. And if you want more farmers market tips and information, you can subscribe to our weekly newsletter at farmersmarketpros.com and follow us on Instagram at Farmers Market Pros to exchange information and ideas with us and other farmers market professionals, answer the 3 qualifying questions, and join the private Facebook group, the Farmers Market Pros community. This podcast is produced by Farmers Market Pros, where passion meets profit. Today's episode was recorded and edited by Justine Marzoni Mead. Original music by David Mead. Thank you so much for listening.